Started. So this is John Fox with the John Fox Real Estate Team. John was licensed in 2020. You've been with Keller Williams that whole time, right? So the whole 5 years?
That's correct.
Okay. 15 units sold this year?
Yes.
Okay. Projected 10 million plus this year?
Yes.
And then you actually just expanded, let's type right there, 75 days ago. So you actually have a 2-member active team along with your probably TC.
That's correct.
Okay. And then John is also the owner and operator of American West Home Inspection, Inc. and Porchlight Property Investments, Inc.
That's correct.
Okay,
yes,
got it.
You got it all.
We're going to talk about what those things are. But first, I start every interview. I always like to ask, what did you do before you got into real estate?
I initially owned a trucking business for 14 years.
Okay.
It was an over-the-road trucking business, managing, dispatching, hiring, doing the payroll, and doing the maintenance for a over-the-road trucking company with 8 semi-trucks.
How many employees did you have there?
We had 8 drivers. At one point in that 14 years, we had gone through 27 drivers in 1 year.
Just okay. Okay, 20. That's impressive. Okay, so what was your role in that company?
Okay, so I was the actual owner and CEO of that company.
Right.
So I started it from scratch, knew nothing about the business, went into the industry, learned everything I possibly could within the first 6 months, bought my first truck, which was about $180,000, and then slowly grew my business over the next 4 years. And over the next 4 years of that business, I had bought a total of 4 semi-trucks and hired on drivers.
When you first purchased the company, did you drive as well?
I didn't even purchase that. I started that company from scratch.
From scratch. Okay,
so it was actually, that's fine. It was actually considered, it was Fox Trucking Inc. That was the name of the company. At that point, it was actually the 4th business that I had actually owned and operated as far as business-wise. My first business venture started when I was 18 years old when pagers and cell phones were around, and I actually owned a pager cell phone business at that time.
So did you own a storefront?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Where?
City of Upland.
Okay. In the mall, did you have like a kiosk?
No, actually I had a corner lot inside of a laser disc store. So it was the first business within a business venture that even at that point had never been of existence. Like right now you have obviously other companies that merge together within the same building. Well, we did that. So we made it where people could come in and rent laser discs, which were like DVDs, but the oversized records. And at the same time, you could pay your cell phone bill and you could pay your pager bill.
So what made you want to start that business?
I've always wanted to own businesses. I've always been the type that want to be an entrepreneur.
Okay.
So my goal was to always focus on wanting to own a business. So I had started that business at the age of 18, operated that for over 2.5 years, and then slowly kind of ventured into wanting to own other businesses or start other businesses. 2 of them that I thought about doing was a solar tanning business, or tanning beds. I was going to open up a tanning business.
That would have been a good one.
Yep. So I've noticed that every tanning company out there has never gone out of business. I find every single one of them still in business, regardless of what clientele they have.
Right.
The second business I wanted to do was a cigar shop. A cigar lounge, actually. I'd been to multiples that had high back leather chairs, darker atmosphere, bring in your own liqueur, and enjoy the atmosphere. So that was my goal, was either open up a tanning salon or a cigar shop. So both of those had high overhead.
Did you ever do that?
No.
Because of the overhead?
Have not done so yet, no, because of the overhead.
I find when you work in a business, you're an owner, we own a business as well. You see how the businesses ran.
That's right.
And then those things like the dreams of owning this or that, then you start looking at it more from a profitability standpoint.
Exactly.
So you're like, I'm not going to own that cigar shop.
For me, it was more so what the overhead to operate that shop. I mean, you had to have upfront collateral in order to start both of those businesses.
Right.
So that's what makes those businesses difficult to start.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So so I want to go back. So you started your cell phone and pager business.
Yes.
And then what happened with that? Did you grow it?
I actually sold it off to the owner that was there at that time.
Okay.
Then I went off and tried to figure out what I was going to do as far as by the time I was 18 to the time I was 26 years old, I had literally had 26 different jobs. Okay. I had always been out there looking to how to make money, how to develop myself, how to grow. So my background is in a lot of things, as far as whether it's electrical. I've done electrical. I've done security. I've done training seminars and businesses, development and stuff like that. But my goal was always still focus on building a business.
Right.
So that's where I focused my efforts. So I went back to school. I got my bachelor's degree in business management, primarily because the fact is anytime you look on the newspapers, they're always looking for ads for business administrations. So I wanted my master's to be in business administrations. So I got my bachelor's in business management. I got my master's in business administrations with a concentration in human resources so that I would know the liability aspects of what I was getting involved in.
Okay, so you have, like you said, from the start, this was your goal, is to be a business owner and operator.
That's correct.
Okay.
I was brought up on Zig Ziglar and Lee Iacocca and listening to audio tapes because my dad was actually a partial owner of Alcoa Aluminum Roofing. So I had a business background development growing up.
Okay. Okay. Did you help your dad and stuff while you were growing up, help him out in the field?
I basically worked under those companies, but never directly for him.
Right. Okay.
So.
Okay. So I have a lot of questions about all that stuff, but I'm gonna try and keep us on track if I can.
Go ahead.
So I'm gonna jump forward to then what made you go from your trucking company into real estate?
Okay, so when I initially started my trucking company and any business venture, as we were talking about, my focus was variables.
Right.
Can I control the variables? And as I got into trucking, I really learned really quick what the variables were and how exposed I was going to be and what the overhead was going to cost. And my biggest goal was to control those variables, knowing that there were so many of them. They were controllable when I first started. And then as things started to evolve with trucking, what happened is you had new regulations that came into effect. At that time, COVID had kicked in, started affecting the supply chain. The supply chain then affects the maintenance time that the trucks are down.
Right.
And then the cost of actually supply chain affected the business. So now you've got 3 or 4 or 5 variables now that are costing you more than they would typically make. So we were seeing at one point we'd have sales and a gross net income of say 2.7, but then ultimately our cost to operate was about 3.2.
Right.
So cutting that check $25,000 every single month for truck payments and not making any money just made no more sense.
Yes. So you mentioned COVID.
Yes.
So I think what you're saying is probably overseas they were experiencing COVID before we did.
That's correct.
So you're probably, the supply chain and stuff was happening.
We're starting to see when we say supply chain, it was getting basically not product necessarily, but more so of the equipment to replace the truck
Right.
parts. We were not getting truck parts like we needed. Fuel prices were slowly starting to climb. And then at that time, it's like, okay, we need to figure out where this is going. When a business stops self-sustaining, it's time to start looking at something new.
Okay.
In this case, the business was not sustaining itself anymore.
Right. Okay. So then did you fully leave that company behind, or did you start real estate, kind of keep trying to run that business as
No.
well?
So what I did is back in the early 90s, I had a background in doing commercial lending. That's where I first had my first exposure to real estate.
Okay.
And back then, commercial lending, and actually any lending at that time, a lot of people would refer to it as the cowboy days. It was the days that regulations were not as strict as they are now, and the ability to do commercial lending didn't require a license, whereas residential lending did require a real estate license.
Okay.
You operated under the licensing of the bank.
Okay.
So that's what allowed me to get exposure to the real estate. So one night I decided to lay down and go to sleep, and I started praying on it and thinking about it, and I wanted to find an industry that I could go into that gave me the ultimate freedom. And I tried to think about all the things that I had done up to this point in my life that would give me that opportunity to have that freedom that I wanted.
Right.
And what I ultimately came up with is I would go back into lending. But hey, why not go back into the residential side of lending? But I needed to have a real estate license to do so.
Right.
So I went and got my license while still operating my trucking business. So at that time it was 2019 that I actually went and got my license. I started studying. I took the test, and again, my intentions were never to go into real estate. It was to actually go into lending. But at that point, I got my license. Once I got the license, I started going forward with it. I'm like, well, why am I going to take that extra step to go into lending when I'm already doing real estate and I can turn around and try it? So I did real estate. I took a chance. And the thing was, for me, that was attractive about real estate is I can control my variables.
Yes.
I can control my overhead.
Yeah.
I can make it as expensive as I wanted. I could make it as little as I wanted. The biggest thing for me is let me have the control. Let me have my days off. Let me spend the amount of money that I want to spend. If I want to make more money, I go out and work hard. If I want to take a vacation, I take it. But that was what attracted me to that.
Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of people want that freedom, but they don't understand that you also have to have the work ethic behind it as well.
That's correct.
Otherwise, you're not going to be profitable.
You have to have the discipline.
Yes.
If the discipline's not there, you're working for yourself.
Yes.
Even though you're working under a brokerage, we have team leads and stuff like that. We do not work for them. We still work for ourselves. So you have to be self-driven.
Right. And it's like you don't have anybody checking up on you. You don't have anybody saying, hey, John, did you make your calls today? You kind of have to be in charge of that.
That's correct.
So, okay. So you got into real estate. Now, did you have anybody that helped you? Or did anybody come to mind that you're like, I'm going to call them, they're going to help me out with this?
I had actually a lot of help when I first walked in the office. I came to Keller Williams initially because of the fact that my aunt actually worked for the Norco office. So I was referred to going to Keller Williams. So when I started, that's where I decided to come, was here because of her referral. Once I got into Keller Williams, I was referred to a lot of good sources. I had a great lender. I was working with Tim Burchell with Franklin Loan Centers. I also had Christy Munoz that I was working with when it came to lawyer's title. I actually got referred to a great branding person, which is no longer available. I can't find her anymore, so I would refer her out. I would share her name, but she's not available.
Yeah.
But what happened is I got a lot of direction from Christy Munoz, actually. And that's where I sat down with her. She took the time, put me under her wing, and we had conversations on how to really grow my business. How can I develop and grow my business, and what was the best thing? And what kept coming to mind when everything she said was branding. Brand. It's all about branding who you are. Mm-hmm. And that was the most important thing. What I always noticed about her is you always related her to the color green.
Yeah.
That was just it. Every time you saw green, you thought of her. So what I did is when I got the information from her, I started branding myself based on my name. I didn't want to brand myself based on my image and my face, where a lot of agents put their business cards out there with their pictures on it. I wanted to capitalize on my name for later on, as my goals were to grow a business.
Right.
My business to grow was a team. So I did come up with the John Fox Real Estate team with the intentions of growing.
Okay.
So that's where that developed. And then, of course, we came up with our logo, which is the geometric fox, which actually has a symbolization inside of it, which is the diamond. The diamond inside the fox is a diamond in the rough. So that's what we kind of share with people is our marketing tool. We also market ourselves based on our colors and our layouts on how we do things.
So have you had this branding? How long have you had it?
I've had the branding since basically I had it. It was developed 3 months after I started the business.
Okay. And so you've just stuck with it, no changing, no color changing, anything like that?
No, we stuck with one color. Actually, we don't have one color. We have turquoise, we have gold, we have white, and then we have the tan color. So we went with the richer colors because my goal was eventually to go into luxury real estate. That's what my goal is to work with higher end clients, deal with higher end, properties and stuff like that. So that was our focus. Right. Already from the beginning, we were already aiming high with the goals of achieving that.
I'm asking all these questions because I feel like in our industry, we switch up a lot. So we'll be like, this is my branding. Oh, wait, no, actually I want this, or maybe I want these colors now. So I feel like it's really important to kind of choose something that really resonates with you and stick with it. I love Christy. She actually was one of the first people that kind of helped me too in real estate at my other brokerage. So I really that's fun. That's cool that she helped you like that. Okay, so she really helped you with branding.
Yes.
Who was the person that kind of helped you with, now you have to go out and get the people? So who really helped you figure out how you wanted to market yourself, or sorry, not market yourself so much as lead gen, things like that?
Well, it was initially told that, you got to get in front of people. You got to get in contact with people. And the thing was, what was the best means of doing that? My days started in this office, and I know, people can vouch that I've been in here. When I come in the morning, I would be here the first one in. I'd turn the lights on, 7 o'clock in the morning. I'd be walk in, make my cup of coffee, get ready to work. And the first thing I did was work towards those off-market properties. And the main reason is because those were motivated sellers at one time.
Right.
To me, that was an opportunity for me to key in on, hey, what are these people still wanting to do? So to me, off-market properties were the way I started. So I would start calling at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd already have my preparation done in the morning. I would prep myself. There'd be probably 5 or 6 people in our training room at the same time. We would pump each other up, motivate each other, and then we'd jump on the phones. And then we would actually, and the reason what was nice about being in a group atmosphere like that is you could, one, when you were motivated by other people's phone calls, mm-hmm. 2, you were also learning from their conversations. Hey, that was a good question that person asked, or hey, that's a good thing to say. I'm probably going to use that. And like I said, I would work from 7 to 5, Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, I would go out and actually do open houses. That's what I needed to do. My goal was to find out and get my name out there. Nobody knew who I was.
Right.
Nobody knew what I did. But the most important thing is that I had a business card in my pocket every single time. So anytime somebody sees me, even to this day, there's a business card in my pocket because I want to make sure that I can give somebody who I am and leave an impression behind.
I think that's a good idea. I have a question about your off-market calls.
Go ahead.
So when you say off-market, are they past FSBOs? Are they expireds? Are they?
Off-market would be the ones that are expired.
Okay.
So they are properties that were listed at one time, and those either came off the market because they either didn't sell, they canceled their contracts. Obviously, we abided by the regulation rules. We didn't call withdrawals and stuff like that. We did contact, like I said, the conversations that we had, we were trying to develop relationships with people that really, and again, our approach was more not, hey, are you looking to sell your house? That's not the business I'm in.
Right.
If people ever look at my marketing, my business card specifically states exactly what we do as agents. And yes, we're realtors, but if you really break down what we do as realtors, we are marketing directors for our clients. We're not selling the property.
Right.
Our clients are selling the property. Mm-hmm. So when I went around and solicited people, which they call it soliciting, it's not soliciting because I'm not selling you anything.
Right.
You're selling your house. I'm providing you a service. I'm giving you some information. So the goal is, so that's why I put on my business card, it says direct marketing specialist / realtor, because that's my goal. My goal is to market your property to the best ability to get you the most money and get you on to the next chapter of your life.
Yep. I agree. I'm with you on that. So I want to talk about it. We kind of started talking about it before.
Go ahead.
Okay. So your first year in real estate, I noticed you had some pretty high numbers.
Yes.
So would you say you had a fast or slow start?
I had a pretty good start. I would say when I first started, I got my license right before the first of the year. And then I started, like I said, dialing off market properties. And of course, my first lead and first appointment came on an accidental dial. It was a dial that was supposed to be a certain property. It wasn't. I had gotten on the phone with the gentleman and come to find out, it wasn't the property I was calling about. He tells me he's got a property, that he's trying to sell, and it's $14 million. So I say, that's great. $14 million is a great lead. So let's start looking up the information on it. Well, by the time I got off the phone with the gentleman, we had cut his property value from $14 million to 8.9.
That's still great.
So at that point, we made our first appointment. It was actually a commercial property down in Marietta. And I did a co-listing on that property because 2 weeks in the business, I didn't know enough about the business to feel comfortable doing it, but I did know that I was going to charge 10%.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, all right, 10%, 8.9 million. I'm looking at about $400,000. I could handle that. It was my first transaction. It'd be great. I went down there. Next thing you know, the person that I did go with, unfortunately, cut me down on my commission. My commission was dropped down on the listing agreement from 10% down to 6%.
Okay.
And as soon as that appointment ended, I had asked, really, is somebody going to pay the difference? Because as far as I was concerned, my value was what the market supports. I feel that I'm worth what the market's offering. So that listing went out there. It came on the market. It came and gone. Unfortunately, surrounding properties continued to drop down price values, and the seller just didn't want to go along with the program. And unfortunately, the property values dropped all the way down. And by the time the property came off the market, it dropped down to $4 million.
Wow. Okay. So did he end up not moving?
He did not end up moving forward with anybody. I mean, the property's still available down there in Marietta right now.
So it's still there?
Yes, it is.
That's funny. Okay. So, but you probably learned a lot from that. And
that was a great transaction. What I did find and what that instilled in my mind was, I mean, it doesn't matter what number you have. Every number is a potential. Every person out there is a potential. Anybody you talk to is a potential. Whether it's a direct client, whether it's a referral opportunity, it doesn't matter. The biggest thing you have to do in this industry that I found is, if people don't know what you do, they cannot come to you for your service.
Right.
So the biggest thing is just let them know what you do, and that's it. Let them ask more questions about them, but as long as you've instilled in their mind what you do, the conversation, if you ever notice, will come up. So how's the market?
Yep.
It's always the number one question. If they know you're in real estate, you can ask all the questions you want about them, but I guarantee you by the end of that conversation, they're going to ask that question. So what's going on in the market?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and it's good to be the person that people want to come to for that information as well.
That's right.
Like you're the person in their life, they're like, I'm going to call John or I'm going to call Jackie to see what's going on. So let's talk about them, because your first year, I believe you said you had 13 million in sales, or was it?
We had 9 units. No, there was actually 9 units in closing. Actually, I only had, my first year wasn't that big. My first year I did like what, 3 million, 4 million? I did 4 million my first year.
I think that's still amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop you right there.
It was 4 million my first year.
Okay, 4 million for the first year. So
and you got to remember, at the time I'm still managing my trucking business. I'm actually still physically driving. I was driving cross country. So I'm sitting here managing my real estate business, growing my real estate business, and I'm actually still driving a semi truck cross country over the road from here to back east.
Oh my gosh.
So, that was a full-time job. So basically at this point I'm trying to operate 2 full-time jobs and transition into real estate. And we were actually able to close, like I said, a little over $3 million the first year. I got Rookie of the Year, which was fantastic. That was actually my goal, was to get Rookie of the Year, and with the intentions of hopefully earning that, not just having it given to me.
Right. Yeah, it sounds like, I think, like I said, especially then, because prices weren't what they are now. No. So 4 million in your first year, I think, is amazing. So from that, would you say who were the most amount of people that contributed to that? Was it Sphere? Was it like absolute strangers from dialing? Or
actually, it was a combination of everything. The initial start came from obviously the off markets. That was a good start. Then I did my open houses, and I got business from there. But as I was reading through the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, obviously, it talks in there about leverage. And the thing is, I really needed to gain some leverage. And that's because I didn't have a whole lot of time. I needed my time to be valuable to me as it was to my clients. So I really pushed to get listings. And, what was nice is I was able to start getting listings from even from the open houses. Hey, I got a buyer. The buyer's looking to sell. And we could double in this, deal, some way, shape, or form, and it ended up working out.
Yeah.
But that was the biggest thing, was to do open houses, and then at the same time, just arbitrarily handing out business cards. I had it later on, and as my career developed, I'd be at the church, and next thing you know, I hand a business card while I'm waiting to pick up my daughter from Awanas, and next thing you know, mom and dad are ready to sell their house. Now their daughter's ready to buy a house. Now 2 years later, the daughter's going to sell a house. So just handing that one business card over gave me 3 transactions that closed over $1.5 million.
Okay.
So that's how fast a transaction can develop.
And then that helps too, like you said, you go into church, you have the contacts there as well. So that is not necessarily your sphere, but like slightly outside of your sphere. So,
that's right. Well, see, that's the thing. In our business, we always hear, hey, concentrate on your sphere. Concentrate on your sphere. Well, the problem is 14 years of my sphere was over the road. So there is really no sphere. Right. I don't have doctors. I don't have lawyers. I don't have, and the people I am dealing with, they've got people that are working as virtual agents out of the country. They're not buying anything from me either.
Right.
So here I'm having to figure out a new way to develop my sphere, and I didn't really have one. So I had to figure out a new approach to how to get it in touch with people.
Right.
And at this point, it was like, well, I need to be a walking billboard, kind of like Christy Munoz and other people. So that's why you come out with your own brand. You come out with your brand, you market yourself, and you literally, and then later on in my career, I decided not just to come out with the shirts and the hats and stuff like that. I started walking around the neighborhoods and doing farming. And of course, that's when I came out with my shoes. My shoes actually have my branding on them, with my brand on them, my name on it, and across the tongue of it says John Fox Real Estate Team.
I've never known anybody that made their own shoes. I've never even noticed that.
Michael Jordan.
You've
only made it once you made your own apparel.
Personally. So.
If you watch the movie about it, that's where it comes from. And that's it. Once you've made your own apparel, you've made it. Again, and that's where you really want to keep your name out there. Yeah. What makes people think about you?
So let me ask you then, have you had anybody stop you and ask about the shirt and result in a transaction?
Oh, hats, the shirts, all the time.
Okay.
It helps.
That's good to know. Yeah, people.
And if you don't want to invest in the shirts because you're not at that point in your career, putting the name tag on you makes a big difference. You're a walking billboard. Put that magnetic name tag on your shirt, and literally, every time you pay a bill, put a business card in there. You turn around and see somebody, hey, have you ever thought about buying something? Where do you currently live? Ask the questions.
Interesting. And you've had a good response from that.
Absolutely.
Like you said, paying a bill at like a restaurant?
That's right.
Interesting. Okay. So I want to ask then, when did you start seeing a noticeable difference in your business?
That came once I established my branding.
Okay.
That was the biggest thing, because we had a website out there. The biggest thing is people want to know that you're real.
Yes.
What shows that you're different, or what shows what you're going to, all the agents say the same thing. I'm going to market your property. Okay. How are you going to market your property? Well, let me show you, because I market myself. So if I'm willing to put this effort and time into myself, let me show you what we could potentially do for you. So to me, branding was a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, all about personal appearance.
Yeah, I agree. And you said you had a website.
Yeah, I still have a website.
It's the same one.
So
You've
still have a
always had the same.
website. We've grown, we've developed, and actually we're in the process of revamping it, but it still has the same colors. And if you take a look on there, I mean, we always strived for, like I said, that luxury market. That's what we wanted.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like I always used to use the philosophy of, you know, just because you have a $250,000 house doesn't mean that you can't sell your $250,000 house on a champagne lifestyle at a beer budget.
Right.
We're going to treat each client the same.
Right.
We're just going to figure out the manner of which makes more sense.
Right. No, there's a saying in our industry, and it's luxury at any price point.
That's right.
And so, yeah, if that's what you offer for this client, why not offer it for this?
We do the same thing. We just figure out, I mean, in some cases, obviously, it's a different approach, but we still treat them all the same.
I agree. I think that's a very good business model. So then let me ask you about staying in front of your clients. So how do you stay in front of them?
Okay, so obviously we have our CRM. We operate on our CRM. Yeah. We do use KW Command. We do use the automated drip systems. The biggest failure that I've seen in this industry by far is follow-up. The biggest failure. And the thing is, like they say, every business is going to have a failure just as long as you fail forward. And if you don't learn that, you're not going to succeed. You're not going to continue to grow. You're not going to continue to move forward. So for us, follow-up was a major component. So whether it was by phone call, by personal visit, by email, by text, obviously the busier you get, the more you need to automate your systems.
Yeah.
But you need to still pick up that phone call and have a personal contact also.
So when you're saying pick up your phone calls, are you calling past clients?
Past clients, new clients, people that even say they're potentially interested.
Right.
At a lot of points, people say, well, how much do I work this database? How much do I stay in contact with this person? I've heard some people say, well, you call them till you get an answer. Well, that's not necessarily true either.
Right.
Because you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
If you've got, if you've tried to make, say 4 or 5 attempts and no success, then move on.
Right.
Or if you get somebody on the phone that says, I'm not interested. Okay, are you looking to make a sale now, or are you looking for immediate money? I mean, the thing is, you need immediate money to stay in business. So again, you may have somebody that says, hey, I'm interested in doing something later on. Great, I'll put you on a drip. It doesn't cost me anything to do that.
Right.
So my biggest thing is just like when you do a farm. You're farming a neighborhood, or you're making phone calls, or you're hosting events. All that has to do about putting your name out there.
Right.
And that's all I'm trying to do. I mean, I don't do a lot of door knocking. Now, I do go out and I do drive around on my scooter. I'll jump on a Segway scooter and I'll hang 1,500 flyers a month.
Okay.
And that's the farming process.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is just doing follow-up. Your biggest thing is to stay in front of your clients. Because I guarantee you that one moment that you don't stay in front of them, the next person that steps in that front door or knocks on their door or walks by their driveway, you'll lose them.
Yep.
The thing is, and then you say, man, I lost a client. They were never your client.
Right. They didn't know you're.
No.
they didn't know that.
They can know you're an agent, but they're not your client until you've got them on a contract.
Exactly.
They're not your client.
Yeah, or have those conversations.
That's right.
So you mentioned you'll hang flyers.
Yes.
Do you still do that?
Yes.
I know you did that for a lot when you're kind of first getting started. Yes. And then you do like maybe a drip campaign for potential. Do you do that for every past seller, buyer, anything like that?
We do it with upcoming buyers. Everybody's on a drip. Doesn't matter what depending upon who they are. If they're a past client, we keep them on a neighborhood update on their recent purchase.
Okay.
Or if they're looking to sell, we'll put them on a drip for a neighborhood update because we want to make sure that they're aware of what's going on in their neighborhood and what's going on in the market. Then of course, we send them market updates in regards to interest rates and stuff like that. Now that was one thing about our newsletters. We send our newsletters out. And I spent a lot of time on my newsletter. I mean, I changed it probably 4 or 5 times. Now, I didn't change my brand, but I did change my design.
Right.
And that was based off of recommendations from other people in the industry.
Right.
And it got to being where it was 6 columns on front and back, total of 12 columns of just writing.
Right.
It's boring. Nobody's entertained by that.
Right.
So what we did is we started introducing infographics. We started introducing sections about recent sales in their neighborhood. We started presenting up their information about the interest rates. And then it's like, well, okay, what really is going to keep somebody to keep this information? What's going to keep me as far as the call of service? So I at one point in my life was an executive chef. So I know people love food.
Right.
So to me, it's like, well, like they say, the way to a person's thought and minds is through their stomach.
Yeah.
So let's entertain them with the idea of putting a recipe. So what we did is we started doing recipes on every single one of our newsletters.
Okay.
So people started hanging on to our newsletters. They'd put them in their cabinets. They'd put them in their drawers. And husbands would be saying, well, why you got this? Or wives would be saying, why do you got this? Well, because this guy's got a great recipe for barbecue ribs, or he's got a great recipe for desserts or whatever. So we started marketing off of that.
Right.
We wanted to give people a value of why to hold on to our newsletters and why to look forward to having them every single month.
Right.
So that's what we started doing.
That's a good idea. I'm wondering how often you send your newsletter.
Newsletters once a month. So we send that out via email, or we also actually say, like I said, I was doing a farm, which is a lot larger than anybody should be doing. I had 1,500 houses. I was doing 1,500 houses a month. I would come in here. I would actually print up my own flyers. I was buying Aero Bright paper so that people would know that mine was different than everybody else's. It wasn't just the straight color print, hey, here's a flyer, looks like everyone else's. Mine was on this bright fluorescent paper, whether it was orange, green, yellow, red, whatever, blue, and we'd actually set them out based on seasons.
Okay.
And then what I would do is I would actually door hang those. I would not knock.
Okay.
Because to me, I even put it on one of my flyers. I'm your aggressive silent agent.
Yeah.
I'm there when you need me, but I'm not when you don't. You know, I don't want to be annoying.
Yes.
What I do want to be is of value. So I did get listings. Now, the thing about farming is true. Farming is exactly that. It's a process.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't happen overnight. You're not going to get immediate listings.
Mm-mm.
It's another tool in your tool belt of, like the book says, you know, you should have 5 things that you really work on, whether it's off markets, whether it's going to events, whether it's, you know, doing newsletters, whatever it is, that's what you should be doing. So newsletters to us, that's what we did. It was just another tool for us to do. And it took almost 12 months before we got our first listing. And then of course, you know, within the next 3 or 4 months, we got 3 or 4 more listings. So we started seeing progress. We started seeing growth, just like you do on a farm.
Right.
So that's why it was so important to keep driving with it.
So do you still do that?
Yes.
You still?
Yes.
And is that still, I'm sure everybody knows you now.
Yes, and
they
those
know your
neighborhoods.
scooter. They know your.
Oh, they know exactly what we do. And the thing is, we would do other things. I mean, so, you know, 6 months down, you know, every year we would give out the annual calendar.
Okay.
And our calendar was recipes. So it had our business card on it. So they turn around and put that magnetic calendar up on their refrigerator. It has our name on it, and it has the recipes. So they're seeing us every single time they go to the refrigerator. And they had recipes, and that's the reason why they want to hold on to it. Oh, yeah, this is the recipe guy.
Yep.
You know, then we turn around and said, okay, at 6 months, we need to give them something else that would kind of go with recipes. So then we sent out conversion charts, converting cups to ounces and ounces of cups and so on and so forth. So now guess what? Now when you walk to your refrigerator, you got 2 eyes and you got 2 business cards of me on your refrigerator. You know, that's what we wanted. We're trying to just get our name out there. And a lot of times, like I said, we would talk to people in driveways. Well, I'm not selling. That's great. I'm just providing this information to you because you may need it sometime down the road. Right. And it'd be amazing. All of a sudden, a month later, I get a phone call. I'm going through a divorce. My parents passed away.
Yep.
We need your help because we have to relocate because I got a job transfer. That's why I'm there. I'm there for when you need me. Right. You're not going to need me every single day. You don't need your doctor every day. You don't need a lawyer every day.
Right.
But what you do need is to have somebody that you can go to when something goes wrong, because when panic sets in, there's nothing worse than trying to figure out what you're going to do.
Yeah, exactly. You just want someone that's top of mind for you in that area.
That's right.
So, okay, so can I ask you then? So I already kind of wrote some of them. Okay, so we have 5 activities that you want to do consistently, right?
That's right.
So I got a newsletter. You do that monthly.
Yes.
I have yearly, we do a calendar with recipes.
That's right.
Also, would you say every 6?
Every 6 months.
You'll do a conversion chart.
We'll do the conversion chart. We'll do a conversion chart or something of importance.
Okay.
Emergency phone number type thing. Something that keeps you out there and in their face. You know, you want something, because the newsletter is going in a drawer or it's going in the trash.
Right.
But you need something of value that they can actually have sitting out.
Right.
So that's why we do that.
Okay. So then you have, so these are, what else?
We do the off market calling. So
okay.
That's the other thing that we do. Okay. And then we also do, you know, we go to others' events. In other words, I don't host them.
Right.
But I will go to others' events. Affiliates especially, whether it's home inspections, whether it's home warranties, things like that allow me to be out there and mingle and social and, you know, get the word out there. Because again, those are more about referrals. Right. Like I said, everybody's a potential client.
Okay.
Because it may come a day that there's a transaction that you're not comfortable doing, and you may come to me and say, hey, you know, John, can you help me with this?
Right.
Or vice versa. I'll say, hey, Jackie, you've had experience with this. Let me help you with that. Yep. And being that I do residential and commercial real estate, that's come into play a lot more now than it ever has.
Yes. Yeah, exactly, especially with commercial.
Yes.
So let's kind of break down your business a little bit if we can.
Sure.
What roughly percentages, where would you say your business comes from over like more consistently the last 2 years, let's say that?
Last 2 years changed dramatically because about 3 years ago is when I actually brought on an ISA.
Okay.
So I do have a virtual ISA that I did hire. And I would say a good 75% of my business comes from that ISA.
Wow.
And primarily because of the fact of what I'm involved in. Being that I'm actually overseeing all three and operating all three of my businesses, he's doing the tasks that I am not doing.
Right.
Not that I couldn't do it on top of it, but it's like I've always said, if you're going to hire somebody, you better have something in place to take up that time.
Right.
Because the goal is you want to make more money, you want to be more successful, so you don't ever delegate something off to somebody and not fill it with something else for yourself.
Okay. Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. Why hire somebody to do that if you're just going to be sitting there?
Exactly.
So you hired an ISA.
Yes.
And that person is basically just making those calls for you.
This gentleman dials 600 plus numbers a day, 40 hours a week, and works, like I said, throughout the year. So, yeah.
A day. That's amazing.
Yeah. He's on average, like I said, 600 numbers a day. He probably gets about 30 contacts. He averages me about, I'd say he averages about one appointment a week. The thing is, because I pre-screen a lot of my clients beforehand, I don't care if you're a buyer or a seller. Unfortunately, most recently, I'd say over the last 6 months, I've shot down probably at least 24 listings because people are just not practical on what they're trying to do.
Right.
I'm looking to sell my house. I'm looking to buy here, and yet they don't have any equity. They have no pre-approval that they can even get, and yet they can never make it in the market they're trying to get to.
Right.
But yet they had their house on the market. And had they sold it, they would have been homeless.
Right.
So for that reason, we don't do that.
Yeah.
Or people have overinvested. They're not getting an ROI, which is the return on investment on their property. They've overinvested in it. They bought it at $750. They turn around and want to sell it, and they put $100,000 into it. Now it's worth $850, and they would need $890.
Yeah.
Not going to happen. Yet your recent sale in the neighborhood only supports you at about maybe $799.9.
Right.
So you're $100,000 overpriced. You're stuck in that house. So that's what we do. Our goal is to really help our clients, and that's what we're in to do. I'm not in this, but not that I don't want to say it wrong. I'm in this business to make money,
right,
but the money will come. The
yes.
thing is, my goal right now is to really help my clients focus on where they want to go and whether it really makes sense.
Right.
Unless you don't have a conscience, you're in the wrong business. If you don't have a conscience, you need to get out of this business, because the thing is, you have to have a moral compass.
Yes.
And that's where your focus needs to be.
No, I very much agree with that, and I think that's important too. And I also think that a lot of us will allow that to take up a lot of our time if we're trying to help people with these goals that are not going to happen.
Well, that's where you do. That's why I said you pre-screen. You have those questions, and that's the most important thing. You have to ask those questions. If you're not asking the questions, then you're just lying to yourself. I mean, I can easily overinflate my pipeline and say, hey, I've got $20 million in listings out there, and I'm selling them all. But if you're not going to sell them, why take them? It's costing you money too, especially if you're a listing agent.
Yes.
It's costing you. I don't know what most agents. I take that back. Most agents are getting $300, $400, $500 for pictures.
Yeah.
On average, my pictures cost me about $1,000 per client, and that's because I do videography on every single one of them. I do 3D diagramming on every one of them. I do photograph. I do droning. I do we do twilights. We do everything.
Yeah.
We go full gamut because that's my job.
Yeah.
The other thing is besides pre-screen, as far as for our clients go, we spend the time to make sure that listing can be serviced. When I say that is, and even now that I'm growing my team, I don't take a listing. I never took a listing unless I could actually show that house.
Okay.
I will never let somebody arbitrarily go take their buyer to my house if I'm not present. Okay. Because it's not the buyer's agent's job to help sell that house. Okay. It's my job. I know the information about it. I know the details about it. I know the upgrades on it. I know the motivation, the ambitions, and the focus. So, and then again, by doing so, I've gained clients that way. Right. Because it's amazing how many agents don't go with their buyers to go see a house.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
And then I turn around and I've got that client coming to me and saying, hey, you know what? I don't like this house, but I would love to have you as my agent.
Right.
And next thing you know, we're turning around and we're working with them as a buyer agent. And that's fine. The thing is, I want to be there so I can give the feedback to my clients firsthand.
Right.
Hey, this is what I heard them say. Now, the nice part is you come to one of my, you should come and show the house. I walk you around. I take your clients, say you brought your buyers. we're going to walk around the house.
Right.
The sad part is you're going to be at the back of the chain. You know, I'm going to take your whole group, and we're going to go walk around the house, and then next thing you know, I'm going to drop you off in the kitchen, and you guys are going to talk. And what's pretty cool is when I drop you off in the kitchen, typically I'm within eardrop distance,
Right,
to find out how that conversation's going. And then when I re-enter into the conversation, I can come back and address most of the questions that your clients may have had, so that we have a solid idea of where they're at, whether it's a deal they want to go through with or not.
okay.
So yeah, every listing we take, if you can't show it, you don't take the listing.
So, okay, so now I kind of want to, if you don't mind,
Sure.
I want to like role play this a little bit with
Okay.
you. So this conversation, because again, I feel like a lot of us have taken those listings where we knew we shouldn't have taken that listing.
Right.
We knew it was going to, we're kind of overpromising a little bit. What they're wanting is not realistic, but we take them anyways. And not only does it really, really takes forever to sell, but it's a drain on yourself. You don't have enough time to go do other things. So, okay, so I want to role play that a little bit with you.
Sure.
Your conversation with a potential seller.
The most recent one was that if I were to take your listing at $890, we're going to be dropping at $25,000 every single week, and that means by the time we get through the next month, we're already going to be down at the price we should have been priced at. Do you want to go forward?
And they said no.
And that's exactly. And the difference is my approach towards clients is not for everybody. I'm a very direct agent. I'm very aggressive. I'm very direct. I'm not rude. I'm not cocky. I'm not arrogant. But what I am is I'm real.
Okay.
The thing is, a lot of times, and that's what I tell people when I go into my listing appointments, and even when I talk to them on the phone, I said the first thing I'm going to tell you is this: I may not always tell you what you want to hear, but I'm going to tell you what you need to hear.
Okay.
And that's the reality of it. There's nothing worse when you go in and you start talking to people and they say, well, to tell you the truth. Or, I joke about that because it's like, man, I hope you're telling me the truth the whole time.
You should be telling me the truth. Yeah.
Oh, to be honest with you, well, you haven't been honest all this time. Now you're going to be honest with me. I mean, it's a lot of it has to do with our wording and with our delivery and how we present things to our clients. It's not that they're going to be offended. They may be upset. They may be frustrated, but at least you're doing them a service.
Right.
If you cannot help them, don't pretend like you can, because there's nothing more disappointing. You're not going to keep them as a client.
Right.
You truly won't. You will lose them as a client because you were not upfront with them to start with.
Or they're going to be disappointed in the end that
exactly
I have to sell my house for $90,000 less than I. So okay, so let me have you go through this with me then. Okay. So you call them. Are you on the phone when you're having this conversation, or just during your listing appointment?
Well, it depends. The last 5 listings I've taken over the phone.
Okay.
I've never gone to a listing appointment.
Okay.
I've literally taken the listing over the phone and then gone out and shot the property. So it can vary. I mean, I can do it either over the phone or I can do it in person.
Well, let's do it over the phone.
Go ahead.
Okay. So you're calling them, or has your ISA patched you through?
Let's say they turn around and the ISA gets a call. He gets an active call. He transferred it over. Says, hey, you know what? This guy's looking at selling his property.
Okay.
Fantastic. So at that point, he transfers the call. Hey, Joe, how you doing? In your case, hey, Jackie, how you doing? Appreciate you, wanting to speak with me. What are we trying to do? What's going on with your property?
Okay, so here's what's going on. I bought this investment property last year. I spent $750,000 on it. I put $90,000 back into it. I'm not getting the tenants that I'm wanting to get. I'm not getting the return that I wanted to get. So I need to sell it, but I need to make sure that I make that money back.
Okay. So based on the, so we would go in at that point to figure out what kind of improvements have you done?
Okay.
Were they cosmetic? Were they personal? Whether it was adding a pool, things like that. We really want to dive into what those improvements were.
Okay.
And then at the same time, we're trying to figure out what the value is of that house. So when you bought the property, you bought it at $750,000. And then at that point, I'm going to sit there and try to analyze whether you had overpaid at for the property to start with. That's my biggest question.
Right.
What's your base price? Where did you start at? And whether it makes any sense to move forward.
Right.
And a lot of times it'll shut that conversation down because they've overpaid, especially in the market we're in right now.
Yes.
A lot of people overpaid for their properties and now they're trying to get their money out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, I would ask, what kind of improvements have you done? What did you pay for it? How much equity do you have in the home? How much money did you put down? You paid $750,000. That's great.
Right.
Did you put $350,000 down and now you've got $450,000 in equity? Great. Where are you trying to go? Right. I think is the other question. Because the thing is, if you don't find out where they're trying to go, it's kind of like, hey, you know what? Yeah, I can completely relate to what you got going on. I had a couple the other day down in San Jacinto. They wanted to move to Pasadena. Guess what? Their house is only worth $300,000, but they're not going to buy a $600,000 house in Pasadena.
Right.
I can't help you. But let's figure out where you want to go.
Right.
And why are you going there? So for me, the biggest question is, I always drill this down. What is the motivation? If you can't key in on the motivation, you have no ground to stand on. Because the thing is it really is it really a motivation or is it a condition?
Right.
And that's the thing. You can't change conditions. Hey, I'm changing, I'm moving because I have a job transfer.
Right.
But then you turn around and tell me, guess what? My job transfer didn't take place. So then when you and I have a conversation next week, you say, you know what? Yeah, that job transfer went away. Well, I guess you're not selling now.
Right.
Right. So that's
or
a
I'm not
condition.
going to sell unless I get
I get this dollar.
Right.
And the thing is, you know what? I'd love to get you every dollar I can. That's my goal, is to get you every dollar we potentially can. The reality of it is I don't control the market.
Right.
Now, what I do is I turn around and I take the approach to the value of your property as that of an appraiser, not so much as that of a real estate agent.
Yep.
So real estate agents will just arbitrarily jump on Realist. They'll jump on the CRMLS and they'll say, oh yeah, your house is worth this. What I do is I'll take into account what your square footage is, what your average neighborhood square footage is, and whether it will comp out. Because it doesn't matter how much money you want to make on your property. If I can't get it to appraise, we're wasting the time also, unless we're in a market that will support
or a cash buyer.
Money.
Yeah.
You get a cash buyer, or you got gap coverage, which we're not getting people right now that are covering that appraisal gap. So those are things that you have to take into consideration. It depends upon where we're at in the market and what's going on. In this particular market right now, I don't know if I can get you that $850,000.
Right.
At the same time, you want $850 in your pocket. That's not $850 minusing my fees.
Right. Yes.
And closing costs. So what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and put together a net sheet for you. I want to send that over to you. I want you to review it. I'm going to go ahead and get back in contact with you here in the next 24 hours. How's that sound? And then let's see if these numbers make sense to you.
I like that. Okay. So I also like that you're not like, we're getting this deal signed today.
No.
You're giving them time to review the information and come back to it and say, does this work
give them
for you?
something. Give them something so that they know you're calling them back for a reason.
Yes.
Don't just arbitrarily tell them, hey, you know what? I want you to think about what we just talked about, and I'll call you back. Because you know what they're going to do? Block.
Right. Well, no, like you said,
and that could happen real quick. A net sheet is very easy to do, and it gives them an idea of whether their ideas and terms are realistic.
Yep.
Okay. So you've got to give them something of value in that sense, especially when they're looking to sell and you don't know really if they're aware of what the market supports.
Right.
I mean, a CRM is great. It takes some time to put one together. Some people can do it in 15 minutes. That's great. But that's a lot of paperwork to go through.
Right.
And to digest and diagnose and all that. Shoot, send them a net sheet. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
It's all numbers. It says exactly, and this is what I'm going to make. Well, okay, I guess I'm not selling. Or, hey, let's sell tomorrow.
Yeah, I think a property valuation with the comps and everything, that's better to kind of sit down with somebody and go through that information rather than just send it and be like, tell me what you think.
Exactly. There's just too much money it's just too much information to try to digest without somebody analyzing it with you.
I agree. I think that's okay. So this has been very helpful for me. I hope everybody else got some value out of what John and I just talked about, because I feel like a lot of us do end up wasting some time hoping that something will work out, or when we know. We have all the information. We know better than that.
Like I said, you can do quick comps. I mean, you can check it out yourself. Just pull up local, and the thing is, don't go I think that's the biggest mistake. We start big and then we go small. We really need to be starting small and going big when we're looking for our comps. I mean, really, go a half mile and look within the last 30 days.
Yep.
Those are your real numbers.
Yeah.
It's not, hey, by the way, I'm going to go a mile and I'm going to go, a mile out. I'm going to go, 60 days. You might as well wipe off half your comps, because those are not real numbers.
Right.
Those numbers have changed, and now it's affected the market. It's going to affect people's opinions, and that's the thing. You need to be able to come in with something strong. So narrow down your search first, and then grow. Don't come out really big.
I agree. So I have more. I'm like, we're getting close on time.
Good.
So I have more questions. Okay.
Talk fast.
So
no, I'm just kidding.
I know. Let's go. Okay. So I want to know now what your day looks like.
Okay, so
a typical day.
A typical day for me is I'm very big about time blocking. I think it's one of the things that we lack as agents. We either put it together, but we don't do it. So my time block consists of, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm at the gym by 5:30. I'm done at the gym by 7. I get done there. I go jump in the shower. I get up. And while I'm going from the gym to my house, I'm either having a coaching call with my ISA or I'm having a coaching call with my team member. And what we're having coaching calls about is what conversations are they having, what appointments have they set, what issues are they having, and how we're going to go forward with the day. But I have those coaching calls with my team member and my ISA every single morning.
Okay.
Okay. Once I have those conversations, because I obviously manage and operate and full blown with the home inspection company. Depending upon whether I have a home inspection or not, depends upon how my day works.
Right.
Unfortunately, my real estate career, that's one of the reasons why I have an outbound ISA. That person's making those active calls. My appointments for real estate do come before my home inspection ones. I shift everything around.
Okay.
Because for me, real estate is a big deal in the sense of I got to continue to grow it. So I will do home inspections secondary to real estate, but I make sure that we're not compromising our business with our inspection clients. What I'll do is in the afternoons, I'll typically do my follow-up phone calls, follow-up emails. I may even have an afternoon call with both of my ISA and my team member to find out where the morning has developed and where it's going. Then after that, we'll finish off the day. And of course, every one of my days consists of reading some type of a book of some kind. Not a full book, but obviously we read at least 10 pages to 15 pages a day, and make sure that we're learning something new. I enjoy having conversations, obviously, throughout the day with other agents as far as what they're doing. If I come in the office, I want to know what people are doing.
Yeah.
I really want to know what they've seen, what they hear, because I'm learning from them just as much as they are from me. But my typical day before, like I said, prior to taking on the 3 businesses, they consisted of just making phone calls. That's what I did.
Yeah.
I made phone calls. I set up my plans to do open houses. As a newer agent, that's the first thing I would focus on is just getting my name out there, talking to people, talk to many people as you can a day. I set up a very vigorous, challenging boot camp for my first hire, and he's got 90 days. And you got a 30-day process, and it's based on your goals. The next 30 days is strictly based on my goals. And then what we do in the very end is the last 90 day or last 30 days of the 90-day period is a combination of both of our goals and going forward. But there's 10 challenges involved in all of that. And those challenges, can involve all the way from reading to making so many contacts a day to setting up so many open houses to, making sure that, you're doing your follow-ups and stuff like that. So for me right now, I'm more in I wouldn't say major production mode as much as I am more trying to grow my business. And, kind of like Gary Keller has stated, it's kind of like the check mark. You start off at this point right now where you're up on high, and then of course you're going to come down to a low because you're going to take away from your own production to grow your business, but then it should spike back up.
Right.
And that's where I'm at in my career, is to grow my business to the point where really I don't want to be in full production. It's not that I don't enjoy it.
Right.
It's that I want to see other people succeed. That's my whole reason for wanting to build a team, is that I want people to grow and succeed and be successful. Back when I first started my career here, I did every class I could possibly think of in the sense of what was valuable. I did Bold. I did Ignite. Ignite was probably one of the best programs that Keller Williams has, because you learned a transaction from day one to day of closing, and then even afterwards. So Ignite was huge. Bold was huge. I did the KPA, which for me was recommended because I had the trucking business, on how to control my hires and how to hire people. And if people ever saw the Keller Williams, the KPA assessment on how to hire people, it's a vigorous process. It consists of like 6 interviews, and the final interview is typically with you and your spouse and me, so that I know who you're talking to every time you go home at night.
Right.
So we know what that relationship's like. We see how that conversation is.
Interesting.
So if you go through that, there's always classes out there to take. But the one thing I always see as real estate agents, we invest a lot of time in learning, but we put very little time into application.
Yeah.
We got to learn more. No, it's not about learning more. It's about learning the key skills and then learning to develop those skills.
Right.
So to me, it's like, you can go and have a notebook full of notes because you go to a family reunion, or you turn around and go to this class that you just learned about how to do, set up my Google page or something like that. But if you don't physically implement it, those notes mean absolutely nothing.
Right.
You just wasted your time. And you got to stop looking for that golden key. Just implement what you learned and focus on where you're not the strongest.
I agree.
So.
I feel like you said, we go through all these classes and everything like that, but everything I take away, especially from doing these interviews, is the number one thing that everybody's really done is just sit down and make calls. And it's like, we're all worried about our, this and that and everything else, but it's like, what did you do? What consistently always gets you to where you want to be is you make
think
calls.
about the basics.
Talk to people.
Back in the day when real estate first started, we didn't have all this technology.
Right.
Yeah, we have to evolve. We've got to grow. We've got to continue to do that too. But the biggest thing is if you ever have doubts, you always go back to the basics. What was the basics? Where did you start? And what was the thing that didn't cost you? You don't have to go out and buy leads. I don't buy leads. I've never bought a lead.
Right.
Never bought a lead in my life. But yet, we closed 3 million, we closed 9 million, we closed 10 million. We're focused to close another 10 million. And again, that was based as a solo agent.
Yeah.
Recognized as a team, and right now, like I said, last year we were ranked number 4 out of 3,600 agents in the region.
Yep.
And that's just from being persistent. Our goal is to continue to strive and grow, but the way we grow is just going back to the basics and remembering where we started from. And if we can continue to develop in those skills and continue to hone in on those skills, there's some things that you got to start delegating out. But like we talked about earlier, you don't delegate it out unless you've got something else productive to put in its place.
Yes.
And I think what happens is a lot of times people think, man, I've got to have this assistant. I got to have this. I got to have that. No, but is it money well spent?
Right.
My biggest thing was, because I was working the trucking business, is I needed an assistant. I needed somebody that was licensed as a transaction coordinator that could do the job for me.
Right.
And to me, that was money well spent. Because the thing is, even to this day, when I say I don't touch paper, I almost am legitimately true that I don't touch paper. I will sign a listing agreement. I will sign a purchase agreement. I'll put it all together. But after that, do I get the forms emailed over to me and do I review them? Absolutely. Do I know all my forms? Absolutely.
Yes.
I just don't have the time to sit there and put them all together.
Compile it.
I don't have to put it all together. I don't have to organize it. So to me, that was money well spent. Why? Because that money, that the time that I'm spending doing all that, where am I strong at? That's not making me more money. That's money already made. The problem is we focus on the transactions that we already have in escrow.
Yes.
Okay. Doesn't mean that you don't follow up on them. You don't stay in the loop of what's going on. But that, as far as your mindset should be, that deal's closed.
Right.
You need to be looking at the next deal, because what happens is people get so zeroed in on that one deal or the deals that they have in escrow, and then when they close, they have nothing.
Right.
Because we didn't continue to progress and move forward, and didn't put our efforts to where it's valuable.
I agree. Yeah, or you kind of have the ups and downs
Right.
because you're spending a lot of time done with, okay, now you're,
Now you start
prospecting
production.
again.
Yes.
And then, so that's how you get those peaks and valleys.
And
so,
you stop that.
Yes. Well, so you have like a more consistent stream. So I'm going to ask you, because we're almost at our hour.
Go ahead.
What would you do? What would you say to a newer agent coming into the business? Final question.
Final question. This is going to sound kind of weird, but I'd tell you, to be honest with you, as a new agent, you need to be selfish. You really do. You need to be about you, about growing your business, about growing yourself, about educating yourself about what's going on in the industry, about how you can better your clients. It's a time in your life that you really have to be selfish in regards to what you can do to better yourself, to better for your clients. And that's important, because a lot of people don't. They get distracted. And that's the biggest thing in this industry. I mean, you come into an office, it's great, but it's motivating, it's exciting, but you've got to stay focused. You got to stay narrow. You got to stay focused. You can't be distracted, and you just got to continue to drive yourself every single day. That that next phone call is it, because like I said, I mean, I made a wrong dial, and it came up with an $8.9 million listing, and anybody can do that. It's not me that did something special. It was an accident, and a lot of times, you know what? By accident, you slip a business card to somebody. Mm-hmm. So I would say to new agents, just stay devoted, dedicated, and be selfish to yourself to really grow your business. Stay focused.
I think that's great advice. All right. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for John before we wrap it up? No? There's way more that we could talk about. Go ahead, Nick.
Can you tell him to stay away from my neighborhood?
No. He's unstoppable.
I'll say, I think I farmed Nick's neighborhood. I farmed Chris's neighborhood. I gave them all back their neighborhoods. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, John's not messing around.
That's funny.
All right, guys.
So basically, it's a front and back. So it's an 8.5 by 11 front and back. Front page actually has an infograph on it telling you about the actual neighborhood as far as what's going on in the city. So it just gives you the key factors of how many houses have sold and things like that. Then down below, it actually has information about the recent sales or recent activity. So it's got anywhere between 10 to 12 houses in the neighborhood, what they sold for, what they didn't sell for as far as the drop price. So it gives them information to get an idea of what the market is in their neighborhood. On the flip side, it actually has the current interest rates for all loans as far as, well, the main ones, VA loan, FHA, conventional. So it has that information there. Middle section actually has the recipe itself. So it's a new recipe that I go through, and maybe either I've modified it, but I've used every recipe that I put out there. And then down at the very bottom, it has a call for service. And then actually on my newsletter has a QR code that takes you directly to my website. So this way they can scan in and they can actually see the production of where we're at, what we're doing, and where we're going.
Nice. Do you still hand make that?
I still hand make that. Even though we have a clergy service, I need to turn around and start using that. And that's some of the parts where, again, new agent wise, I know you're running out of time.
No, that's okay.
New agent wise, what I would do is I would really be, if you can delegate something off and you feel comfortable in doing so, I would encourage you to do it if it's taking time away from your production. That's probably the hardest thing for most of us to do as human beings, is to delegate stuff off, because we're concerned that we're going to have to go back and fix the problem because they didn't do it right. But if you have confidence in delegating off, things that are just not productive for you financially, then I recommend that.
I think with a TC too, it's not only saving you time, but it's also kind of they have your back with liability.
That's one of the reasons why I went with a licensed TC.
Yeah.
Licensed TC allows me to turn around and have confidence that, again, they're a licensed real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
That's also what allowed me to become a solo team. You have to have a licensed agent under you in order to be considered a team. So I always wanted a licensed TC for two reasons. One, my first TC actually was one that would go out and do open houses for me. She would actually sit down and do the disclosures with my clients at the table if they had any questions. She'd go out and put lock boxes on. But I also paid for it. I was paying $600 per transaction. And if I dual agented it, like last year, 65% of my deals were dual agented, and I had to pay double. So I was paying $1,200. But to me, it was worth it for the actual service that I was being provided.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So
that's good stuff. All right. Well, thank you
Okay.
for coming, John.
You're welcome. Thanks,
We
Jackie.
did it. We did a good job.
All right. Wow.
Very good interview.
Yeah, thanks.
So much good